Alright, let's do a review on the Star Destroyer. So, this set released in August of 2024 for a retail price of $160, and this has set number 75394, 1,555 pieces, 7 minifigures, and an age rating of 10 plus. So, the figures are okay. The minifigure selection isn't really super exciting, they're all just okay figures. Except the Cal Kestis, but I'm mainly talking about the core figures of the set. I will talk about him in a second. But the main figures for the Star Destroyer, like I said, are okay. We really just get 4 Imperial crew members, a Stormtrooper, and a Darth Vader. First up, the Imperial crew member and the Imperial Gunner. Both are pretty decent figures, just not really that exciting. There's nothing really to write home about them, other than the fact that they are pretty nice upgrades from previous ones. Like the Imperial crew member is definitely a pretty nice upgrade. And if you're curious, this is what the Imperial Gunner's faceprint is. But I mean, overall, decent figures. There's just not really too much to talk about them. And here's the backprint. The other two figures is an Imperial Navy Trooper and Commander Prodigy. I think that's how you say it. But the Imperial Navy Trooper is an okay figure. I do like the whole helmet mold. I think that does look pretty good. And I do like his faceprint. I definitely feel like you could use that exact headpiece on a Rebel Trooper. And Commander Prodigy is also an okay figure. I do wish that he had maybe a bit more of a unique faceprint, because this one is pretty common. And I don't really think anyone knows who this character is. He might have appeared in the background of a couple scenes, or maybe in a couple comics, but I don't really know who he is, nor do I care really. But it's not a bad figure. I do like the print on his torso. And something interesting is that their torso prints are almost identical, except this one has a couple of changes in the crease lines, obviously the little badge and the little pen things. Otherwise, they're pretty much identical, which I find funny. And the back prints are also very similar. And the Imperial Navy Trooper does include a second face. Before I talk about the Cal Kestis, we also get a Darth Vader and a Imperial Stormtrooper. And these two are incredibly common figures. I don't really have too much to say about the Darth Vader. It's the pretty standard Darth Vader that we've been getting for a while now. There's a pretty high chance you have this figure. And the Stormtrooper also is okay. It is the newer Stormtrooper design, which isn't terrible, but I'm still not a huge fan of the helmet. And this is what both figures look like underneath their helmets. Finally, the actual exciting figure, the Cal Kestis. And it is nice to finally get a character from Fallen Order, besides BD1, and it is also nice to finally have Cal Kestis as a minifigure. And Lego did do a pretty good job. The figure has a very nice print on his torso, and pretty good light printing, which are actually gunmetal gray. And his face print is pretty nice. As you can see, there are a couple little scarring detail, which looks pretty good. And the figure includes this pretty common wavy hairpiece, but in dark orange, which is new. His backprint is pretty good, and same with the second face, but I think I prefer the other one. And I only really have two complaints about the figure. The first one is that he just should have included a poncho, you know? But the main one is that he should have also included BD1. Considering he is his droid companion, the fact that LEGO already made the figure, and plus, the young Leia did actually include Lola. So, I don't know, I feel like BD1 just should have been included. And plus, the figure is like $30 now, which really sucks for anyone who didn't have the figure previously. I mean, overall, it is a decent minifigure selection. None of the figures are terrible, but only one of them is actually exciting. And a complaint I have with the minifigure selection in general is just that there should have been a second Stormtrooper included. But now, let's get on to the actual build. So, I want to say the build is very good. One complaint people have had is the fact that this set is actually significantly downscaled from the previous Star Destroyers. It is actually the smallest one. I believe it is actually a full 4 studs shorter than the previous Star Destroyer in 2014, which is definitely a bit annoying, but if this is your only Star Destroyer, you won't really be noticing because it is still a pretty big set. The side panels do look very nice, and please ignore the dust. I tried to remove as much as I could. Right here, there are actually 4 turrets, which look pretty good, but those clips can get misaligned and look a bit wonky. And you can't actually rotate them all, because right here at the back, you just pull this to move them, which is pretty cool. But I personally like to keep it like this. There isn't too much detail on the side, but I mean, it's not like they could really fit that much. Near the top, it does look pretty good. They do use a lot more tiles here than on the rest of the paneling, but I mean, this does look pretty good. I guess it could maybe look a bit messy to some people, but I don't really take too much issue with it. There is a green spring-loaded shooter right there, and I don't really mind that because, at least with this set, it's not super obvious. It's somewhat hidden into the actual build. And to fire it, you just push down right here, which is pretty cool. Sprinkled throughout this whole top area, there are actually a couple transparent pieces to replicate some windows, which is pretty cool. This whole back area does look pretty good. The back of the ship does look pretty good. They do a very good job on the engines, and there is actually the proper amount. And I do definitely appreciate the blue thrust. I think that does look pretty good. And something pretty interesting is that Lego did actually attach a tile right here on to some clips, which is actually not an illegal building technique. It is only legal with the older style of clips. And they did put a couple of tiles at the bottom. Something pretty cool is that right here, you can actually lift this whole thing up, and there's a storage spot for the extra spring-loaded shooters, which is pretty cool. I do kind of wish that that tan piece was gray instead, but I mean, you're not really going to be seeing this area too much. And for some reason, there is actually the masonry brick right there. Something kind of funny is that you can't actually kind of jam a figure in there. If you lift one of their arms up, you could put them in and then close it. But that was not intended, and I don't know why you would do that. The top of the ship does look great. They did use a sticker right there to replicate the windows, which is pretty cool. And there are those two little ball things at the top. Not really sure what they are on the actual ship, but there is some very nice greebling across it. And no, you cannot fit a figure in there. You can only fit a figure on the first Star Destroyer. But I mean, it's not like you really needed to put one up here. And if you're curious, this is the bottom of the ship. There's not really too much going on, but it's not like there really needed to be. And something very cool with the set is that there is actually a handle, and it is properly hidden into the build. It's just right there. You lift these panels up, then you kind of pull the whole thing out. This shall be my best attempt to show you how it works. So you kind of want to fish it out of there. It could definitely be a bit annoying to try to get it out. And the handle does work very well. It is very sturdy, and it is actually surprisingly balanced. It doesn't lean forward or back too much, which I do appreciate. While I do really like the handle, at the same time, it wasn't entirely necessary, because you can also easily just pick it up from the bottom. But I mean, it's probably safer to still use the handle. So to access the interior, you want to take this whole thing off, and then you just open the panels up. It is definitely a pretty cool way to access the interior. And there is a decent amount of interior space. Over here, there is a little table with a clear mug and a control panel. And there is this chair, which you can spin around. Over here, there are two crates, one of them with an Imperial logo, and some airbrush writing on the side, which translates to cargo. And inside, you will find two thermal detonators. And the other one has some macro binoculars. There is also a little computer right there, which looks pretty good, and two computers at the back. And both screens do look great. The first one has some information about the Star Destroyer, and I imagine it has stuff like the power level and the fact that that red engine is probably not working. And the other one has a little map of a battlefield and some information on TIE fighters. And those red ones likely mean that those ones were taken out. And while the pieces do look great, they do use clear stickers. And the issue with clear stickers is that if you don't apply them perfectly, air bubbles can appear very easily. The other side has that exact same computer over there, and a little whole table of the battlefield, which looks pretty good, and the red is most likely the enemy, and you can actually spin this whole thing around. Over here, there is a little medbay area, which has a syringe, a control panel, and a little storage spot on the wall, which has some sort of canister. And there are some clips for weapons right there. And right there, there is actually a sticker for a little screen. And there is another one on the other side. And here's a better look at them. That one does have some information about R2-D2 and C-3PO, and some airbrush writing. And this is what it translates to. And finally, the front. There is a little bridge area for Darth Vader, but he cannot stay there when you close up the ship. And right there are some slopes with some control panel prints on them, but they are kind of hidden, mainly because of that top plate. And on the sides, they do actually have some pretty classic control panel pieces. Some more detailing on the side. There's the other one. And you can, of course, put two figures in there, and they don't look terrible. And that's essentially all there is to the interior. There isn't a lot, but it is still a decent amount. But would I recommend that you purchase this set? I mean, yeah, honestly, it is a very nice build. I would especially recommend it if you don't already own one of the previous Star Destroyers. And while yes, the build is a bit smaller than the previous ones, it is still a pretty big build. And it's not going to be that noticeable unless you have it next to other Star Destroyers. But I mean, this is obviously a must buy if you are a fan of Fallen Order or you are trying to get all of the 25th anniversary figures. But I mean, overall, this is a very nice set. I would give it about a 9 out of 10.